I'm figuring I'm going to die, right? Because it's going to be a hail of bullets. He already shot at a cop twice, so why wouldn't he shoot at him a third time?
So Kevin, you were a police officer with It was Roseland, New Jersey, which is in Essex County. It's probably, give you a waypoint, it'll about 10 minutes west of Newark. Okay.
So we're a very affluent town, but everybody from the inner city came, and that's where they stole stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Mike, you were an officer where?
Lyndhurst, New Jersey. It's lower Bergen County. Give you an idea where it's at. It's one exit over from Giant Stadium. We're about 10 miles west of New York City.
Right. So I was raised in Florida, and I was educated in Florida too. So honestly, like there's New York, and it was probably only about 5 or 10 years ago I realized that there was a difference between New York City and New York State. And
you can't call somebody from New York State.
So
from they make it very clear, like, oh yeah, you're from New York. No, I'm from upstate New York.
Upstate New York.
Yeah. See, I have no idea. Like
very clear.
I couldn't name. I'm not sure I could name all 50 states. I certainly couldn't name them.
Listen, down here, I'm having a problem with the East and the West Coast. I'm calling people. I'm saying, hey, I'm going to be in Tampa. I live on the other coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but
it's all foreign to me.
By the way, I did hear your intro, and you're not the first person to call him a dick. I just want to make that quite clear.
No. All right. So I listened to a couple of podcasts. You guys were giving each other a hard time the whole time.
Well, it's an important thing for us because we're both. That's how police deal with stress. We deal with stress with humor, with some really dark humor. Yeah. So when I go after him, I can tell people in my life that I love them. I can't tell him that I love him, but I can break his balls incessantly and really hit him hard, and he'll know because he's in that life. All right, that's how he's showing that he cares about me.
So, I mean, if someone from the outside actually heard the way we actually broke each other's balls,
it's
they'd
worse.
Probably think we hate each other.
Yeah, it's worse.
Yeah. Listen. It's the same. When I got out of prison, I realized it took me a week or two to start to realize, wow, you really have to alter your behavior. Like I can't talk to normal people. Like when you're talking to somebody and I can look at them and tell they're like having these little little shocks to them, like and
Tourette's.
I realized, yeah, exactly. I started to realize I actually had talked to my ex-wife, and she was like, as I was talking, she has no problem correcting me. She's like, "Thank you, I appreciate that, please." And I'm like, well, "What?" And she's like, "You don't say thank you. You don't say please. You don't say this. You cut me off. You're aggressive. You're that." And so I had to start altering my behavior because in prison, like you'll call somebody a scum, like, "Oh, you're a fucking scumbag, and you're this." But this is my good buddy.
Right.
Like we're mean to each other all the time, and you can't be like that.
It spills over into our personal lives. So when we talk to people in our personal lives, it's very direct. This is the way that it is because you're used to doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
We're a little far removed from being police officers now. I think you're what, 6 years?
6 years.
I'm 8 years out. So it's slowly starting to fade, but it'll always be there in some form or fashion.
Yeah, well, you think you're being assertive, but everybody else sees you as being aggressive.
Correct.
Right?
And sees us as being mean, and
right.
It's not a good thing.
Like I just see myself as assertive.
You can't have that law enforcement dark humor with the general public. They just don't understand.
Right.
You know, like we go to different crazy scenes. I mean, you're in a room with dead bodies.
Yeah.
You know, how are you supposed to just shut that off and go on to the next call? It's like, oh yeah, they're dead. Don't worry about it. You know.
I explained police work like this. When there was a dead body that I was sitting on, they always die on the toilet.
You weren't physically sitting on it, were you?
No, I was sitting in a room. So
okay.
this elderly woman, there's no dignity in death.
Yeah.
So this elderly woman dies. She has when you're on the toilet and you're having a heart attack, it feels like you got to take a shit. So she tries to lay down in bed, and she dies. We go there. So I have to sit on there until the detectives show up, and our detectives at that time were about an hour away. So I'm sitting in there, 2:00 in the morning, just me and a dead body. And what do? I pull my gun out, I put it on my thigh, and then I actually went to sleep in the room with a dead body. And the detective shows up and he sees the gun out. And he goes, "What's the gun out for?" And I said, "Because if she moves, she's getting double tapped right in the head, because I know she's dead." But that's how you deal with that stress, because you can't take that stuff home. We're human beings,
right?
And that stuff builds up over time.
And like I said, that call has to stay at that call. It's not like your shift is over right after that you're done with that call. You have to go to the next call could be a domestic, or the next call could be, just a regular like medical call. You have to leave that call behind you. You can't let it get to you, or you're not going to be able to do the job the right way.
Right.
You see things like you see somebody who's been dead for a couple weeks, and the smell's bad. So you have to be able to shut that off automatically, because guess what? Your lunch break might be coming up. And if you really let it affect you, you're not going to go eat.
Right.
So you just desensitize yourself to everything. And over time, that you every time you see something that's horrible like that, you put on this different piece of armor, because you're human and you don't want to ever be hurt by that again. So it usually happens about the 10 or 15 year mark, where you start getting so heavy and weighted down by all this different armor. And eventually there's a breaking point, and it broke for him and it broke for me, until you learn how to release the armor.
Right.
All right.
Well, so let's get into talk about your story. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. It's tough every time I tell it,
right,
because it's not a very proud moment. You're a guy. Mike's sort of a guy.
Once in a while.
Once in a while. Depends on
usually
what dress he's wearing.
Right after lunchtime.
Yeah. When you go through certain feelings that are uncharacteristic of what a man should feel or what you think it should feel, you feel very weak. You feel very, you just feel less manly.
Yeah.
Vulnerable.
My incident. Hey, listen. Everybody says, "Hey, you worked in Roseland. It's just this nice, pretty white, upper middle class town. Whatever happens in there." But the reality of it is no matter where police officers or first responders are working, they're going to see some crap. My particular incident happened on July 16th, 2013. And it always starts out the slowest night possible. And that's what it was. I pulled up next to my partner. We went car to car, and God, just anything come in. All I want is an alarm, something. Just get me out of the car. I don't want to sit in the car all day. So we used to have to do these plaza checks, like little strip mall checks. I go over there, and call comes over the radio. Start heading to this address. There's an open 911 call. So an open 911 call is somebody dials 911, they'll throw the phone down, and we have to respond to every single 911 call that comes in. Make sure somebody's not being held hostage or something like that. We go flying up there, and I can tell you the route that I took. I can tell you the speed I took. My partner's right behind me, and we're trying to keep it quiet. It's about 10. It's a Wednesday night. It's about 10 something. So there's nobody on the road. We're heading there. We get there, and it's a little townhouse complex, and you can hear the yelling inside. We don't know what's going on, but we can hear the yelling inside.
Now the hair on the back of your neck starts to stand up.
Right. It's when you're going lights and sirens to a call, you're always like, is this going to be the one? Is this going to be it?
Right.
But you never really fully believe it. But
because 9 times out of 10, you get there and it's a bullshit call anyway.
Correct. So you're making these little plans, and you got to make these little plans on a dime. I mean, you don't have time to sit there and do a full drawn out tactical plan. So my partner goes around the back, and I grab something from my car. It's called a Halligan bar. It's like a fireman's crowbar. And so our plan was, I'm going to breach, because it's in the middle of a townhouse complex, so you can't get out on the sides. You can only get out front or back. I'm going to breach the door. My partner's going to, fully expecting the guy to run out the back, whatever's going on in there. So on a signal, I start whacking the door. And this funny thing about police work is you see all these cop shows, and you see them kicking in the door.
Yeah, they hit one time and it flies open.
Yeah. Bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. They're all steel doors. You can't do it. I mean, but we
Reinforced.
know. Yeah, we know how to do it. It's just it takes longer than you think. So I put the crow in there, and I'm cracking it and I'm banging it, because you can hear the other guy on the side as I'm banging it say, "Don't come in here. Don't come in here." And then I hear bang, bang, bang. We don't know what the hell's going on inside. I heard somebody scream. I heard the shots. What we found out is my partner had exchanged gunfire with him through the door, because what he was doing was he was in a domestic dispute with his ex-girlfriend. Guy actually lives somewhere around here in Florida, believe it or not.
All of them do.
Yeah. This is where everybody goes.
Yeah.
He was going to kill this woman with a 9mm Glock. As he's raising the gun, my partner exchanges gunfire with him. So we pull back, I was there with another officer who was standing behind me. We pull back, and it's that holy shit moment. You're like, what the fuck just happened? You know, so you pull back a little bit. Other officers were showing up at the time, so I go around the back. Now, a townhouse deck, if I can give you a layout of it, it's about, like, say, 9 by 9 privacy decking all around. And we go up on the back deck, and there's a sliding glass door. I can see the victim. She's on the ground. She's terrified. Like, she's this close to being killed. But we can't see the guy. So we set up on the deck, and I get over into the corner. Like, if the entrance is on the left-hand side, I get over into the corner, thinking I'm in a really good tactical position because I can see everything. I can see the victim over here. I can see everything over here. And our plan was, not the best plan in the world, but it was the only thing we had. We're going to throw a patio chair through the sliding glass door. We're going to make entry, and we're going to get the victim out. Because once the victim's out, it's game over. You know, he can stay in there for 50 days. I don't give a shit. We throw the chair through the window, and bang, I see this muzzle flash. Now I'm about, say, 6 feet away. I see a muzzle flash, and anybody who's ever shot a gun, you get blowback. So the little grains of gunpowder, you feel them on your face. He was close enough to me, and I never saw him. He was behind a wall, and he kind of did one of these. I feel the gunpowder. I feel the bullet. The bullet actually missed my left ear by, say, 1/4 of an inch, less than 1/4 of an inch, what they suspect, because it hit something behind. And everything, it's so strange when you have a critical instinct, because everything just slows down. There's so much clarity of thought. But what you find out real quickly is there's 2 types of people in this world. There's people who run towards danger, and there's people who run away from danger. So of the 3 of us on the deck, and there was 1 officer behind, I think that guy's still running. I'm not certain. Right. He ran and he was a high-ranking officer. He ran so far away, left me for dead. Because now...
He was going out to call for backup. That's what they usually say.
Yeah, well, he was actually going to call the chief, which was... It's a whole other thing that pissed me off so bad. The other guys retreated off the deck. The ones that were on, say, if I'm looking at the sliding glass there, they were on the left. And they should have retreated because there was danger. I couldn't. So all of a sudden, my tactical position that I thought was so good was the worst thing ever.
You're stuck in the corner.
I'm stuck in the corner, and I got a 6-foot crawl through the danger zone in order to get out. So after the shots rang out, I hit the ground. And there's glass all over the ground, so I fall directly on my forearms, and I still have glass in my forearms to this day, but I look down, and again, very clear thought. I don't know whether I'm shot. I see blood. I hear people yelling behind me going, "Are you shot?" And I said, "I don't know." I really didn't know at that point.
Your adrenaline's flowing so much. I mean, if you see like cop dramas or the real life ones like Cops or one of those shows, they'll say guy will say, "I think I'm hit."
Yeah.
Your adrenaline's flowing so much you don't know if you're hit or not.
I felt like a dull pain in my shoulder, but it was I think I hit a chair on the way down or something stupid like that. But you want to talk about slowing down? Cops will take their keys, their car keys, and they'll put them on the antenna to their mic. I hit the ground so hard my keys popped off. I went and picked up my keys, put them back on my microphone, and I'm under fire, fully expecting this guy to come out. Now at this time, you start thinking about certain things. It's literally a 2 or 3 second window, but you have everything's in slow motion that I start thinking about my kids. At the time, I had a 3-year-old, I had a 7-month-old or 6-month-old, and these kids I'm figuring I'm going to die, right? Because it's going to be a hail of bullets. He already shot at a cop twice, so why wouldn't he shoot at him a 3rd time? They're going to grow up without a father. My oldest will sort of remember me. My youngest will never remember me. I think about my wife, and my wife having to raise these 2 kids on her own. And then I was like, all right, well, you know what? If I'm going to die, let's do it. Let's do it. So I get in a prone position, which is on your stomach with your gun drawn, ready to go. Just waiting for the guy. Never saw the guy once. Never once saw him other than the muzzle flash. And I'm there for 20, 30 seconds. And all this just clear thinking goes through your head. Fully prepared, knowing, all right, this is my time. I'm cool with it. Yelling back and forth between the guy, come out. He's not moving. He's not talking, so he's still a threat. The guys behind me, the guys that didn't run away, one of them was Sergeant Terry West. The other one was Officer Jason Hyder. They stood by and they did their jobs, and they were able to lift the back of my belt and get me out and just sort of assist me because I was in such a bad position. I'm 6'3", I'm 230 pounds. I don't move all that quick. I'm not built for speed. I get out, and then it's a July night.
You sure it's 230? You sure you weigh 230? I think you're packing a lot more than that.
Your head weighs 230. I'm able to get off, and then we hold perimeter for two hours, fully expecting this guy to come out, suicide by cop. We're going to light him up. But in this melee, in this confusion, we're able to get the victim out. The victim gets out. So now, hey, listen, danger's done. We did our jobs. And you're able to decompress a little bit while you're holding perimeter, going, holy shit, did that really just happen? It was crazy. But that's not even the worst part of the story. Because you hear all these things that cops go through. They get mentally screwed up by different critical incidents. You never think, hey, listen, I'm stronger than that. I can deal with this stuff. About I get out, I go to the hospital, and my wife, I didn't even have my cell phone at the time, so I had to borrow an EMT's phone. I left my cell phone in my car. I had to borrow an EMT's phone because all the wives talk, and I didn't want her hearing from somebody else, hey, there was an officer-involved shooting. She knows I'm working that night. I call her, and I say, look, Tricia, you know what? I was in a shooting. I'm okay. I'm going to the hospital. I'm not shot. I just got to get some glass removed from my arm. No big deal. And they said, okay, I was working Thursday that night. You can have Thursday off and just come back Monday. I'm like, cool, I got a 4-day weekend. This is beautiful. I go home from the hospital. I'm so amped up. So I go out. I even go out for a run. And then I finally get some sleep. I get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep. And then you wake up to the 50 different phone calls that you get from people. Everybody's curious,
What happened?
We're like a sewing circle when it comes to police world. Everybody wants to know what happens on a hot call. So my wife and I go to the movies, and we're watching a comedy. But in the comedy, there was like a loud bang. And I just like shit my pants. I can't move. I start hyperventilating. And I don't want to concern my wife. So I say, hey, look, I'm just going to go to the bathroom. I'll be back. I can't go back into the movie theater. I'm like, what the fuck is going on with me? That weekend, my parents lived in Atlantic City. So we go down to see them, bring kids down with them. We got some time off. On the way home, and this is the sort of the progression, you start having nightmares the night before, so you're not thinking right, because you just died. My son, my 3-year-old, spills chocolate milk on his car seat. It's like, it's 3-year-old. Yeah. I flipped out. Like, I started screaming at him. Like, I couldn't control myself. That ride home was the worst ride home ever. So when I got home, I knew there was something starting to go seriously wrong. I called cop to cop, and they got me some help, but it didn't stop there. Like, I couldn't sleep. The nightmares started going on. All this stuff is going through and of course, this is a long period of time until probably about a month after the shooting, I had enough. Like, I really just was broken. It was progressive. My son points a little toy gun at me once. He's 3 years old. He's playing with a Nerf gun. I flipped out. I grabbed the gun right in front of him, calmly snapped it in two, threw it in the garbage. And then I saw the look on his face. I walked out after I saw the look in his face, and I left the house, and I didn't come back for 3 days. I slept in the woods, because then you start to get paranoid because you're not sleeping, and this stuff's going on in your head. I lived in the woods for 3 days, turned my cell phone off, but here was the weird thing. So when I was on, I never carried my off-duty weapon off when I wasn't working. I never carried. I started carrying my gun because I started getting real paranoid. And I finally come home, and one night it's 2 a.m, like, I'm not sleeping. I go in my office, and I said, you know what, this is it. I'm not doing this shit anymore. I'm putting my family through hell. I'm a different person. I can't handle this stuff. And you feel broken. You feel so weak. When I'm in my office, I had a little Chief Special 38 Smith & Wesson, nickel plated, beautiful gun. I take the gun, in my mouth it goes. I'd recently qualified with that gun. And so I can still taste to this day the gunpowder on the end of that muzzle. I can feel the metal touching my teeth. And anybody knows anything about guns, it's a double action gun. So once you cock that hammer back, it's go time. It's the lightest. You sneeze, it's going to fire. I got it in my mouth, and I'm closing my eyes, and I'm crying. All I'm waiting to do is just somebody give me some reason. I don't want to do this. Somebody give me a reason not to do this. And I must have been down there for 20 minutes, just going through everything, like, telling people I'm sorry in my head. I'm sorry to my kids. I'm sorry to my wife. My grandfather, who was the most important person in my life, he'd been gone. I'm sorry. I'm not living up to your hopes for me. And then the whole incident replays in my head. It's like a movie. It just replays in my head. And I had a moment of clarity when I started thinking about my kids, where I just took the gun out of my mouth. I put the gun on the ground, and I stared at it for what seemed like an hour. But at that moment, I knew I had to get my gun out of my house, because this was not the end. And there were other attempts of suicide after that. I was ready to make a permanent solution to a temporary condition. That's what I didn't understand at the time. And throughout this time, alcohol, you'll do anything to numb the pain. Alcohol, they medicate you. They give you Klonopin, they give you Lexapro, they give you antidepressants or anti-anxiety. And while you're taking the Klonopin, you're drinking. I mean, I don't know if you know anything about Klonopin. You do not drink on Klonopin.
Right.
It just intensifies. But the way I looked at it is, hey, it made my liquor bill go down. I'm taking a couple Klonopin, taking some drinks. It's intensified.
Cheap date.
Yeah. It ultimately ends up me going to rehab. And here's the thing. I went to this place called the Princeton House, and it's a great place. It's for they have a COPS program in there. Here's what I learned about going to rehab. I'm not an alcoholic. These guys, they're alcoholics. Like, I just have a problem. I'll get through the problem. And it went on like that. It went on like that until finally I tell my story in group therapy. And once I told my story, that armor that I was talking about earlier, a piece pops off. Now, if you're in shape, so you're a workout guy. What happens if you did a 20-year squat, and all of a sudden you take that barbell off your back? You're like, wow, this feels pretty good. I'm kind of light now. And I started figuring it out that, I've been numbing this pain for so long, and I don't think that was the right way to do it. But in walks this guy one day. Now, Mike Fallis, your new name is Fallis, by the way.
Hey, thanks. I've been called worse.
You can thank Matt for that one.
Yeah.
In walks this guy. Now, I had known him for about 25 years at this point, because I used to work with his brother before I was a cop. And I would know him, say hi to him, but I see him, I'm like, hey, Mike, what's going on? He's like, yeah, that Lyndhurst shooting, that was me. And but I saw that look in his eye. I could identify it. When you were away, when you were in prison, and you see somebody, that look of people that are just beaten and broken, you can identify it, because you've been there at some level. I saw him walk in there, and I saw that look in his eye. I'm like, brother, you're going on a ride now, and I'll be walking alongside with you, but I can't help you. I can just tell you what I know. I'm about a year away from my shooting at this point when I see him. And then he comes in with his story.